And there is Kelvin Sampson, as well as the Houston student athletes, talking about this 70-67 win. Kelvin making us look kind of smart because
yeah, he really did. We know what we're talking about.
We know what we're talking about. We mentioned those second chance points, and then what does Kelvin talk about for a couple of minutes? Second chance points, and that's because we've been around this team. We've been around this program. We know what's important. We know what this culture is built on. And then also, he mentioned the rebounding, which obviously is second chance points. But again, when we look at the stat sheet, there are some clear advantage when it comes to the boards.
Absolutely. When you think about what numbers they needed, to come away with 8 more offensive rebounds than Duke, that could be good for anywhere from 10 to 16 points. That's a lot. That's a lot when you think about the second chances that you have, especially on the offensive glass.
And now let's talk Duke. Duke was the powerhouse, the heavyweight, the number 1 team in the country with 3 freshmen who will be lottery picks in the upcoming NBA draft if they declare for the draft. Let's bring in Jalen Gilkey, who works at our sister station, WFMY, in Greensboro, North Carolina. All right, Jalen, your reaction to what transpired, and let's also remind the people your prediction earlier on KHO U11 Plus and WFMY Plus, right? Is that what you guys call it?
Absolutely.
So give us a sense of what your sense of disbelief is.
Well, let's get the hard part out the way. Let's talk about my prediction. I came
What did you say?
to your guys' lovely platform, and
Bad news first.
I said Duke by 12. And I'll tell you what, with 3 minutes to go in that game, it looked like Duke by 12.
Mm-hmm.
It did.
It did.
And then from that last,
90 seconds?
90 seconds of the game, some of the most disappointing, disheartening, disgusting basketball I've seen from this Duke team, for sure. It seemed like the moment got too large for pretty much most of the guys on the court. Cooper Flagg was sensational the entire game. 27 points, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 4 assists, 7 rebounds.
Yep.
But Concanipple had 16. He had 12 in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Went ice cold in the second half. Nobody else for Duke scored double figures.
Well, let me ask you this. You said this was this the first time you saw them act like freshmen all season?
Not the first time, but I would say it's been the first time in a long time. I would say the first time we saw that be the case was when the game against Kansas early in the year. I think that was the 3rd or 4th game of the season for the Duke Blue Devils. A lot of pressure, a lot of getting to know each other and figuring things out at that point against a then-ranked number 1 team in the country. But ever since Duke has been on that roll, they won 36 basketball games this year. They won over 20 of those by double figures. And it was one thing that I did mention and that we all 3 spoke about, that we've seen both Houston and Duke get out to huge 20-point leads, double-figure leads, and then it still come down to the last couple minutes of the game where it's possibly a 2-3 possession game. And, Houston was able to capitalize and convert. I tell you what, the most disappointing thing I saw tonight was on the front end of the 1-and-1 from Tyrese Proctor with 20 seconds to go. He's your junior. He's been here in the program. I think the win tonight would have meant the most to him. He went up there and missed the front end. And Duke was up 1 at that point, and it was over with. From that very moment, you could feel all the air be sucked out of the building. And you could see the faces of the Duke sideline, players and coaches. They all looked as if they knew this game was over when he missed that front end, and that was all she wrote.
So what was the mood like in the locker room there?
I've seen more smiles at a funeral. It was unbelievably heartbreaking to see those young men that poured so much into the season. And like I mentioned earlier, and if you didn't see that, this season, all year long, this locker room has said it would be a failure if they did not win the national title. That was the one goal that they truly had. And to come up 1 game short in a game where you had a 14-point lead and a 9-point lead with 3 minutes to go, and you can only score 1 bucket. And it came from your superstar who carried you all night long and showed you exactly why he was the guy. And no one else could step up. No one else was able to provide any type of support. especially that final 20 minutes, more specifically the last 5. And I mean, come on, Malo watched 7-2, 0 rebounds. You guys were speaking about rebounding.
Yep.
We talked about that being one of the stats that whoever won the rebounding differential was going to win the game. And
Duke's 7'2" center had how many rebounds?
0.
0 rebounds.
One of the worst games I've seen him have. And I mean, he's a raw talent, but
yeah.
I mean, it was pathetic. I mean, how many minutes did he get?
Well, he was only on the floor for 21 minutes.
And that's your starting center.
Yeah.
Houston's physicality was on display in
Without
that
a doubt.
second half, though. There's no question about that.
And Zach and I noticed, mostly Zach noticed, this is what's being left on some of the Duke seats.
I'm going to take those back with me.
Jalen Gilkey, thank you so much for sharing your insight.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it, and we
been a
will.
pleasure, fellas.
We may be hearing from you again here on KHO 11 News at some
I
point.
look forward to it. It's been an honor and a privilege to work alongside you fellas.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, man.
Jalen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now, when we talk about the reaction, we heard what was going on in the Duke locker room.
Yeah.
You were in the Houston locker room, and what a scene it was.
What a scene it was. Well, first of all, let me tell you how small it is. There's about 150 media members trying to fit into the equivalent of a big bedroom, right? That's essentially what it is. So it was very packed, but obviously the mood was just pure happiness. There's no other way to put it. These guys so excited to be able to take on this challenge, come through, feel like they were counted out in so many different ways. And I honestly think the best way to describe that locker room, more than happiness, satisfaction.
That's a good word. Obviously, we heard from Kelvin Sampson, but Kelvin Sampson typically does another series of interviews. He takes questions. During tournament time, he will hold court, if you will.
Court. Yeah,
in
that's
the
a
locker
good way to
room.
put it.
And one thing I enjoy about Kelvin Sampson is he will tell you, A, how it is, and B, he will give you insight on what the team was thinking.
Yep.
He talked about halftime adjustments during the news conference. What was he saying in the locker room following the news conference?
Well, we had to take Kelvin outside of the locker room because there was such a giant scrum, and at one point a golf cart was coming by, so all the media members had to shift around the corner like this, and no one wanted to lose their position.
It's not glamorous work, people.
It's not glamorous, and I'll tell you something. Before we get to what Kelvin said, I want to tell you one of the best things that he said, which was that if this was a beauty contest, UH should not have shown up. That's what he said. And he described this game so well because it was a fight. It was a dog fight, but UH was able to still come out on top and their culture shine through.
I haven't thought about that yet. We're playing Monday night. I'm excited about that rather than looking back. I'm focused on looking forward. Now when it's over, I may look back and give you a different answer.
Did you say anything specifically to J1 after the game? Did you have a message specifically for J1 after the game?
Yeah, keep shooting 150 a night. He's got 2 more nights.
Coach,
Yeah.
is there a game in your career where you had a comeback maybe earlier in coaching career that kind of sticks with you in those moments and just reminds you of what's possible?
You know what, Myron, is this year.
Yeah.
We won a game we had no business winning at Kansas. We're down 6 with I think 13 seconds left, maybe a little more. But their point guard went to the line and missed 2 free. If he makes 1, the game's over. He misses 2. Emmanuel hits the 3. Next thing is a 3-point game. We do what we did tonight. We're pretty good with that little press we run. We don't do it a lot, but when we do it, we're pretty good at it. They tried to throw it into their big kid. Malik, who also got the steal tonight, tipped it, and he had enough self-awareness to back up, hit a 3. So we went from down 6, I think it was 79-73. Emmanuel banged a 3, Malik banged a 3 right before overtime, so it goes to overtime. Then we get in overtime, and I think we won by 7 or 8 or something like that.
So there is Kelvin Sampson following the win, talking to reporters in the locker room, and he's not the only one who has referred to that Kansas game, but that's why Houston felt so good coming into this tournament, because of the battles it has in its own conference. When we were in Indianapolis, the crowd against Purdue, the crowd against Tennessee, Kelvin said, listen, this is no better or no worse than what we've seen on the road at places like Kansas, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. So that's what stands out to me from what Kelvin Sampson was saying just there.
Yeah, and those are legendary programs within the Big 12, and there's no question.
When it comes to crowds.
Right, when it comes to crowds
to the crowd
and
atmosphere,
all those, intangibles that you don't think about.
Iowa State would be in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's not just about the action on the court, but how it's affected by the environment. And another guy I talked to in the locker room after the game, Emmanuel Sharp, when they were down at halftime, I asked him, what was Kelvin's message to you guys?
But what was Kelvin's message to you guys at halftime?
We went over some things and, some of the breakdowns that we were having on defense and kind of just went over. I mean, we were only down, 6? We were in perfect position. We really cracked down the last 10 minutes.
At what point late in the game did you know you guys had a chance to win this game?
Once we started pressing, we started giving them some fits on the out of bounds, started getting some steals, some tips. And then, once we got it to, single digits, put that game pressure on them, it kind of came into view more.
And Emmanuel Sharp is one of the products of this culture, not just a product of the culture, but also a reason this culture is the way it is. Emmanuel Sharp is one of those guys that could miss 10 straight three-point attempts and then
make 5 in a row.
He'll make 5 in a row and say, I'm going to hit the next 40.
Yeah.
And that's the way Emmanuel Sharp is, and that's why this team was not fazed. Guys like Emmanuel Sharp.
Yeah, and another guy that screams just what this Houston program means.
Culture.
Culture.
I call them culture warriors,
They
actually.
are culture warriors. You're absolutely right. The guy that ends up hitting the 2 free throws to give them the lead, and we know that Juwan Roberts has been here for 6 years at the University of Houston. He's developed.
But we don't call him old. I
don't
always
call
say
him
that.
old.
When we're always asking him questions
we
about
don't-
his past, I say,
No.
where does this rank? But I'm not calling you old.
We never call him old, but he has developed a very close relationship with Kelvin Sampson. I asked him what Kelvin told him personally after the game he helped win.
You and Kelvin have a close relationship. What did he say to you after the game?
The work that you put in, it shows. And he was like, I didn't let my team lose and I didn't give up. When you get to the free throw line and everybody's looking and you got all the pressure on you, you came through. So he gave me a lot of credit, but it wasn't me. I don't take all the credit. I give it to those guys, especially playing defense, because those guards not easy to guard, and they're number 1 offense in the nation for a reason. They're pretty good, but I'll ride with my guys, for 40 minutes any day.
You talked about all the conditioning, last year, or this summer. Do you think back to that when you guys are in those late game situations?
Free throws?
Yeah. Just in general, being that late in the game, do you think back to those hard days in the summer? You were talking yesterday about the conditioning, running the mile, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff plays into it. Especially like all the hard days that we have is built for these moments. I feel like the stuff that we went through in June and September, when you wanted to quit so bad because it's so hard, but you never let yourself quit. And you got some guys that's with you that want to quit, but they can't because we're all a team together. So when you get in these moments, you can only lean on your brothers, and lean on each other and, just fight. And the coaches give us a lot of confidence, in certain games that we're going to go out and do what we want to do. So just believing in each other and, just trusting that we're going to make the right play.
And there is Juwan Roberts in the locker room. I keep looking at this box score, and I keep seeing things that just make my eyes pop. Every time I look at it, I see something different. Yeah. Juwan Roberts, 3 for 4 from the line. Again, we've mentioned this. He came into this game 63%. I think he's a career 59% free throw shooter.
It's somewhere around there.
And Houston has had issues with free throws. Why do you think there's a 150 club? Look at this. I just happened to notice this. Look at the shooting by period. Free throws in the second half for Houston, 9 of 10 for 90%. Yes, 70-67, important numbers, but 9 for 10 free throw shooting in that second half. that is also another reason why the Cougs are still dancing.
That's clutch time. That's clutch time. And that's what Houston does, to be quite frank. And another reason that they're in this position is because of the role players that they have, Jason. The guys who come off the bench, they do the dirty work, maybe don't get all the credit, but they perform very important minutes because it allows a lot of the starters to be able to stay fresh late into the game. And we did see that make a big difference in this game. I talked to Javier Francis, and I asked him what he took away from Kelvin's halftime message being down.
I'm just curious, what was Kelvin's message to you guys at halftime?
Just don't quit. Because, you know, it's been a few games where we've been down going into halftime. You know, it feels like everything's, you know, going their way. But his whole message is like, don't quit.
At what point in the fourth quarter did you know you guys had a chance to win this game?
When we started getting key stops down the stretch, started getting key shots. I said stops, key stops. You know, Emmanuel hit a big three down the stretch. Juan made two huge free throws. So that was kind of a turning point for sure, getting those stops.
Yeah, Javier Francis mentioning those free throws. Kelvin Sampson called them daggers, and they were daggers, but you're exactly right. The players on this team each fill a role. Javier Francis, just 4 points, but what the most important number for him, aside from 2 for 2 from the line, it's the 14-46 underneath minutes played. He is able to give guys like Juwan Roberts and JoJo Tugler a breather. Houston is so intense, so tenacious, so ferocious on defense. It's almost like hockey that these guys have to go in and out because they because they play so hard on defense. And Javier Francis is huge when it comes to the big men and giving guys like JoJo Tugler, mostly JoJo Tugler, a breather.
And we talk about getting a breather. We talk about the conditioning, the endurance of this team. We talked about it on the stream before the game as one of the things to watch late in the game. Did you happen to see Cooper Flagg's turnaround jumper attempt with time winding down?
Yeah.
Came up just short. Just short.
And what does that tell you?
You don't have your legs. And when Juwan Roberts makes those free throws at the end of the game, he has his legs. That all has to do with endurance, and he gave us some insight yesterday, actually, about UH's conditioning. So when I was in the locker room, I asked Malik Wilson about that summer conditioning and how much it played a role later in the game.
When you are in those moments late in the game and you're trying to come back, do you think back to all the work you guys put in the summer, all the conditioning, all the effort that made this possible?
Yeah, man, you definitely look back because, like I said again, we've been in these moments before. Had a game like this at Kansas just gives deja vu vibes of what just happened, and they still feel unbelievable. But yeah, it do go back to the nice. Early mornings we get up by ourselves at 5 in the morning, just doing them hard workouts for moments like this, and it showed.
Malik, what does it mean for you guys to have Juwan at the line right there to knock down those 2 free throws?
Man, that's our leader. I told him when I was subbing in, you got this one, I got this. He said, yeah, I got. He was telling me, but I believe I saw the confidence. That's come from shooting free throws every day. In the biggest moment, he made the clutchest free throws of his life.
All right, Jason. It's lights out for the Blue Blood Blue Devils. The blue-collar Houston Cougars are through to the national championship.
All right, well, that's going to do the story. That is the story here from the Alamo Dome. They are cleaning the stands as there is one more game to be played. Len and Mia, we were going to talk about plus-minus here on the stat sheet, but we know it's late and everyone needs to go to bed. So that's going to do it for us here at the Alamo Dome. For Zack Tawatari, Jason Bristol, that's the story here. 70-67, as you know, is the final. Cougs are still dancing. Back to you.
Unbelievable, guys. Great work try and get some rest because we got another one to do again.
Yes, everyone needs their rest because we got to bring it come Monday. Thanks, gentlemen. See you soon. Hey, if you're looking to catch the Cougars in the championship game on Monday at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, you are in luck. Tickets, they are still available, but it will cost you. Right now, there are plenty of resale tickets on the market. Here's a look at Ticketmaster's website. The blue seats, that's what's available, while the gray seats are all sold out. The Alamo Dome holds 65,000 seats, and ticket prices, they range from about $175 to more than $1,600. If you're looking for a better deal, however, your best bet is to grab a seat in the 300 level section.
Make sure you're tuned in to watch KHU 11 News and KHU 11 Plus. On Monday, we'll be bringing you all the excitement again, this time for the championship game in San Antonio.
If you can't make the trip to San Antonio, you can cheer on the Cougs from the official watch party that's at Avenida Plaza. Tip-off is set for 7:50 p.m. We'll be out there, though, on the plaza starting at 6:30 that evening. We'll have a live DJ spinning tunes. Our own KHU 11 News team will be keeping things hype, yours truly included. That's starting at 6:30. So come join the fun. Time now, though, to get some sleep. We thank you for staying up late with us here on KHU 11 Plus, celebrating the Cougs' big win. No doubt ruining a lot of folks' brackets by beating a favored Duke.
Say it again.
Now it's on to Monday night in the championship.
Bracket Busters. Stream us anytime on KHU 11 Plus. Download on your TV. Watch for free. Good night and go Cougs.